Fletch. I'm Vice President of Public Safety at 911 Inform, and this is an audio version of my recent blog, The 911 Fee Diversion Dilemma. Each year for the past 12 years, the Federal Communications Commission's Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau submits a report to Congress on the collection and subsequent distribution of 911 funds, as mandated by the New and Emerging Technology 911 Improvement Act of 2008, also known as the Net 911 Act. Over the past 12 years, this report has been prepared and includes information collected from the 50 states, the District of Columbia, U.S. territories, and tribal authorities. Each year, the report covers the preceding year from January 1st to December 31st. This year's report, which was issued on December 8th, covering the period of 2019, is also the 7th year where they've included information that relates to the number of 911 centers that are in existence, as well as the staffing levels and call volumes where reported. In 2019, states and territories collected $3,032,215,008 in 911 fees, and only one territory failed to respond in their reporting. Now, while the reporting improved over the last year, several states, such as New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and West Virginia, continued to divert or transfer funds for purposes other than 911 services. Now, in comparison, Nevada used some of its funds for additional purposes that were not approved uses, although they were 911 related. The other states all used a portion of their funds for non-public safety or unspecified services. Other relevant findings in the report mention the fact that despite millions of dollars being diverted away from the 911 funds, 42 individual states, as well as the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, all reported engaging in next-generation 911 programs during 2019. Now, the expenditures for that totaled $278,368,480.27, but that's less than 10% of the total 911 fees collected. The investment is a critical one, as it's indicative of the overall lack of financial investment in the Next Generation 911 services. With only 10% being used for Next Gen 911 programs, 90% of those funds support running and sustaining the legacy network. Now, moving from this analog-based E911 architecture to an IP-based Next Gen 911 infrastructure is not an upgrade. It's a transitional change of technology and functional elements, much like advancing from black and white TV to color. This new technology requires both legacy and next-gen 911 networks to coexist until all of the origination points can ingress their data into the next-generation 911 EZNets, and that PSAPs are capable of directly or indirectly extracting all of that data from the new networks. Once that's accomplished, the legacy network becomes a redundant architecture ready for decommissioning. Now, Canada's already realized this and has set a decommission date of its own legacy network within the next few years. That's because the current Canadian Next-Gen 911 trials are in flight now, with the ESI network ready to take production traffic early in the summer of 2021. Now, another issue raised in the report is that 13 individual states and the District of Columbia indicated that they lack the authority to audit their service providers. Now, this capability is critical as it allows them to verify that the collected fees accurately reflect the number of actual subscribers that are being served within that jurisdiction. Without the ability to validate the number of subscribers, there's simply no way to accurately calculate the reported financial numbers and their validity, leaving it solely up to the carrier to self-report with no validation of their financial obligation. Now, the FCC offers a public download of the report, and that's available at fcc.gov/general/911-fee-reports. And there's a copy of that URL in the written version of this blog on fletch.tv. Now, the individual state filings are also available for public review and download, and that's also located on the FCC landing page, and there's a link for that in the written version of my blog at fletch.tv. Now, special situations exist where state law requires that they transfer any funds in excess of the budget. And quite often, those excess funds are transferred to the general state fund. especially when they have to balance the budget. Now, this particular report ignores those requirements, and the fund diversions count despite the diversion or transfer's express authorization by the state, with the logic being it wasn't spent on 911. Now, Public Safety and Homeland Security reviews each reported expenditure and determines whether such a diversion or transfer is, quote, not in support of 911 and enhanced 911 services or enhancement of such services, unquote, within the meaning of the Net 911 Act. So while the Act can't override state law, it documents the diversion in the report to Congress. Therefore, any state attempting to utilize this ostensibly legal loophole is noted in detail and provided in an official report to Congress. In the past, the FCC has made some attempts at addressing this issue. In February of 2018, FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly drafted a pretty stern letter to the governors of New York, Oklahoma, Missouri, Montana, Puerto Rico, the Northern Mariana Islands, and Guam. In that letter, the commissioner publicly criticized those governments for failing to respond to the FCC's request to report on 911 deployments and provide details on any 911 fees diverted or non-911 uses. And there's a great article on that by Donnie Jackson in Urgent Communications. Once again, I've included a link to that article in the written version of this blog. Now, in March of that same year, the Cellular Telephone Industry Alliance, or CTIA, filed their comments in response to a notice of inquiry where they stated, quote, state diversion of 911 fees violates the public's trust and its service impediment for sustaining and advancing 911 services, unquote. It also endorsed further FCC actions to address 911 fee diversion. Over the life of the Net 911 Act, an alarming trend has emerged for the 5 states most recently caught with their hand in the proverbial 911 cookie jar. Now, despite guidance provided by a federal act, a few frequent flyers continue to ignore advice on reasonable expenses for 911 funds. And these 5 bad actors are responsible for the diversion of over $1 billion in 2019 alone. That's something that just financially doesn't make sense. That wraps up this audio version of my latest blog, The 911 Diversion Dilemma. This is Fletch. I'm Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Check out all my blogs and podcasts at Fletch.tv. And don't forget to check out my latest series, Next Gen 911 Future Makers, where we talk about industry leaders and their enablement of the next generation 911 infrastructure, as well as how they're building the next generation of 911 leaders. You can check that out at www.ng911futuremakers.com. As always, thanks so much for listening. Stay safe. We'll catch you next time, and have a great day.